Hi everyone, it's Killshot from 99 Gaming. This is The Walking Dead Season 7 Top Hidden Clues. As we await the second half of the season, I thought it'd be a good idea to just recap what we've discovered from Episode 1 to Episode 8. Some of these clues have led to something, some have led nowhere, and some the debate is still out. So looking forward to your comments, your thoughts. Leave them below as we walk through episode by episode. And starting out with episode number 1, this was where we finally found out who Negan killed, and we remember Polaroid guys in the background while Rick is crouched over, completely broken down. Just brings back memories of Glenn whenever they stormed the Savior's compound. Glenn took his first human life, and we saw those Polaroids, and also keep in mind when Daryl was in prison, Dwight gave him one as well. What about this scene right before the beatdown? Remember Abraham just giving Sasha the peace sign. That was their common language all throughout Season 6. The picnic table from the dream sequence had a lot of things to analyze. Keep in mind there were 4 candles. Morgan's reaching over. 2 of the candles are out. Could be Glenn and Abraham, but 2 other candles. One is in front of Spencer. One is in front of Sasha. Spencer has left the show. Sasha could be leaving the show. Moving on to episode number 2. So episode number 2 was about the kingdom. We got a chance to see Morgan's carving skills, carving into the mailbox to help find his way in case he needs to come back. This is not the first time we've seen these markings. We actually saw Morgan use this in the woods in previous episodes. And the rabbit's foot. The rabbit's foot was given to Morgan by Eastman. He hangs it up as he's nursing Carol back to health. And Ezekiel with the pomegranate. A lot of back and forth between pomegranates and apples. Symbolism of a biblical references. Moving on to episode number 3. So episode number 3, we finally get into the sanctuary. It starts out with Dwight watching Who's the Boss. We found out he couldn't sleep, and that's a question. Who is the boss at this point? Seems like a little bit of anarchy. So Sherry goes to the doctor. We know she takes a pregnancy test, so her and Negan are trying to have a baby. Probably more to come on that in the future. And Gordon tries to get away. Dwight says everything you have is his or will be, and we find out that Dwight actually shoots his friend in the back. How do we find out? We see a walker scene a little bit later on where Dwight is face to face, and you see the bullet hole going all the way through him. And here's the previously mentioned scene where Dwight gave Daryl the Polaroid. We actually saw Daryl break down into tears, and I think at this point he was at his low point and gradually started building back up. Daryl makes a break for it in this episode, and it should look familiar because he actually successfully does it a little bit later on in episode number 8. So episode number 4. A lot to do about Morse code. Daryl was blinking. We saw the sign. There were so many videos that were out there. At this point, it's meant absolutely nothing. However, Eugene was building a radio. So now that Eugene is captured in episode number 8, will that radio that he's given to the Saviors actually come into play? Father Gabriel was doing some dirty work. He dug the grave, and you can see a little bit of the dirt on his pants when he lied to Negan about Maggie being in one of the graves. And there were a lot of tributes throughout the season to Glenn and Abraham. Here you can see Negan actually has the orange crush in his hand, pops the top. A little bit later on, we find out Enid wants the balloons. Dirty Davy takes them, throws them down, finally gives them to her. But we know those green balloons were used as a symbol in an earlier episode. Here you can see Enid and also Glenn. This is when he wanted to show Maggie that he was still alive. And how about Negan killing women? A lot of people said Negan doesn't kill women, but he actually told Olivia that he doesn't enjoy killing women. We found out a little bit later on because a riot actually killed Olivia. But Negan did take a shot in the window. This was a great shot because when he shot the gun, the casing fell down to the ground. That was used by Rosita. Rosita actually had Eugene make her a bullet and then use that bullet to shoot into Lucille. It's amazing how all these things are connected. And on the topic of shooting, remember Carl pulled the gun on Dirty Davy, and we actually zoomed in and saw Carl is now shooting with his left hand. We'll talk about that in the next episode. So episode number 5, we finally make it back to the hilltop. This scene was great because this is the memorial to Glenn. We get to see the pocket watch and also the ring, and this dispelled a lot of the myths out there that this was Maggie's ring or the pocket watch. We know it was neither. Unfortunately, it was part of someone's face. Moving forward, here are the balloons. Enid makes it up to Hilltop and uses the balloons in order to pay her final respects to Glenn. Sasha pays her final respects to Abraham in a different way. You can see her with the cigar and also sharpening a knife. Think you've seen the last of Abraham? Maybe not. There's rumors out there that Michael Cutlets will be involved in a dream sequence at the end of season number 7. Rest in peace, Big Red. At one point in this episode, we found out that Carl and Enid were not on speaking terms, but if you find roller skates during a zombie apocalypse, that seems to be a cure for everything. As we mentioned before, Carl is switching over. He lost his right eye, so he's going to have to learn to shoot with the other hand. Here he is a little bit younger, always used the right hand when he fired, but in this particular episode, he's throwing darts with the left hand. He missed everything to the left. It was a very subtle thing that they did, but remember, once again, with Dirty Davy, he pulled the gun with the left hand, and he almost lost his left arm. In episode number 1, Negan asked him if he's a southpaw, and he got the Sharpie from Simon and was going to cut it off. Keep that Sharpie in mind. Episode number 6, we found out this little girl is a killer. She starts out the opening scene by throwing the teddy bear into the ocean, and there were multiple times throughout this episode that Rachel actually pulled a gun on Tara. Speaking of Tara, we saw these markings up under her sleeve. Some people thought it could be a kill count, could have also been navigation. Maybe she was charting the different courses that she had taken. We also see a look at the gun when Heath and Tara are in the RV, and once again we see the Lucille inscription on the gun. Where is Heath? We saw when Tara and Heath got separated, Tara makes her way back, and we see the glass is broken. Still speculation at this point. We don't know where he is, but we did find his key card. Is it a PPP? Some people are saying it's PP Pants City. Some people saying it's a term for whispering, but it was written in Sharpie, so it could be Simon. We also saw some bullet casings. Some bullet casings were mixed up in the sand, and we got this brief glimpse into Oceanside, so I think this will come into play a little bit later on. We know they have weapons, and perhaps they'll meet up with Rick's group. And Cindy was looking at a map, so there is speculation. Could be Cindy charting her way back to Alexandria, and perhaps it's Cindy in the boots. Let's talk about episode number 7. Episode number 7, Carl breaks into the sanctuary, and we know that Negan's afraid of Carl. Why? Because he actually uses a human shield, and other times Negan is out in the open. We get this passionate kiss between Negan and Sherry. We thought she was a very good actor at first, but as soon as they turn around and walk out the door, we actually see the tears rolling down her face, so that shows there's still some attachment to Dwight. We also learned in this episode that the heads on the stakes are not anyone captured by the Whisperers. This is the sanctuary, so there was speculation around that. Let's put it to rest. Carl is singing. While Carl's singing, Negan swings 2 times. Once for Abraham, once to Glenn. Yet another tribute. We saw Jesus up on top of the RV. When the RV is getting ready to roll away, you get a brief glimpse of Daryl looking up. So Daryl actually finds Jesus. That's important because they're going to escape together a little bit later on. And we also know that Spencer was out scavenging, and this was great because we see the walker with the guts hanging out, foreshadowing of Spencer's death in episode number 8. So in episode number 8, we got to see Negan with the shave scene. This was a tribute to Danny Glover and Lethal Weapon, where he's teaching Carl how to shave, and he said you got to go with the grain, not against the grain. Moving on to Daryl and his great escape. When he goes into Dwight's room, we actually get one additional tribute to Abraham. You can see the tank falling off the side there, and also the matches. We still don't know who left the matches, so we're going to have to find that out in the second part of season 7. And how about Daryl going Negan mode on Fat Joey? The beatdown was important, but what was left behind was even more important. As Joey laid there dying, we get to see Rick's python. That made for a very touching scene at the end of the episode, and also that sneaky Jesus was able to find the radio, so now they can spy in and listen to the group and know exactly when they're going to be making their rounds. Richard came looking for help from Morgan and Carol, and he was bearing gifts, but was he bearing gifts? He actually had some water bottles, but we saw a little bit later on Richard took one of the bottles in his own RV and started slamming them down. Some people think that he might be making some Molotov cocktails for All Out War, and we also found out this was not Robert Kirkman. There were a lot of videos out there speculating it was. It was just a very poorly dressed actor. And how about Rosita's cut on the face? They thought that a rod actually cut her, but Rosita lifts her head up and actually shows how tough she is by cutting herself. And this image we've seen all throughout the season. So once again, episode number 8, congratulations for winning, but you still lose. Still more to come on that. And then Rick at the jail cell at the end, he has the hatchet, and I think it was the bullet recipe he's looking at. So we start to see the transition of Rick getting into revenge mode. And of course, you can't talk about the first half without the epic cliffhanger. Yes, the boots. So the speculation's still out there. People think it could be the Garbage Pail Kids, could be Cindy, could be Richard. We're just open for dialogue and debate at this point. If you have any more insight, any more thoughts, any more comments, leave them below. Thank you so much. My name is Killshot. This has been a complete recap of all the hidden clues from episode number 1 to episode number 8. Give this video a thumbs up and look for more videos soon. Peace.